Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. Today we're taking a look at the case of 74-year-old hiker Gary Fisk, who would be 75 by now. Last year, September 21st, 2001, he wanted to go for a hike in Courage State Park in Alaska. The hike was going to be 26 miles long and would start, or at least go along the Crow Pass Trail, headed for the Eagle River Nature Center, and it was known as a very rugged trail, still is at the moment. Now, Gary, even though he was 74 years old, was a very capable hiker, and people expected him to have no issues with that. If you were to do the entire trail in one go, it would take you about 24 hours, but Gary was planning on camping overnight somewhere and then continuing in the morning. So when they didn't see him back at the expected time, they were like, okay, well, I guess he just took a little bit longer, but he's experienced, so it'll be fine. But on Thursday, they still didn't see anything from Gary, and then they started to get really worried. In particular, of course, as well, because there was a snowstorm that started pretty much as soon as he was dropped off at the start of his hiking trail, and it had not let up since. So it's very likely that he perhaps got in trouble due to the snow, they thought. So they went and tried to backtrack, starting at the Eagle River Nature Center, to go back down a trail to see if they could find him somewhere along that trail. And unfortunately, they did not find anything. They used ATVs to go down the trail as well, and helicopters with infrared were also sent up into the air to try and find him, but so far no trace of Gary has ever been found. Some people suspected that he may have been attacked by wildlife, because apparently in that time of year the bears are particularly active because they are trying to fatten themselves up for the winter. But then you would find some traces of clothing or something along the lines that you don't just disappear completely. So they didn't see anything, even that type of evidence, and therefore some people suspect there may be some other things at work here, some other mysterious circumstances. But the truth of the matter is we don't know. So I was asked to take a look at this case using the tarot, and we're starting off with the Wise Dog Tarot, which is this one. And for any further questions, we're moving on to the Vice Versa Tarot deck, which is this one with the double-sided cards. If you watch this channel more often, you know that I'm a big fan of this deck, so we're using that as well today. As per usual, I'm just going to start shuffling the deck. As soon as you have about a screen full of cards, I'm going to stop and take a look. So without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, so my camera's acting up a little bit today. Hopefully we'll be able to get through this without too much technical issues. But we have quite a few cards on the card already, starting with the Empress, followed by Judgment, and the Page of Wands, which is an interesting combination, because the Empress I would expect... well, I wouldn't expect to find the Empress here, that's the thing. So you have the Empress here, and Judgment right next to it. with the Page of Wands. Now the Page of Wands is hasty actions, particularly because it's in reverse, so I think they may have made the wrong move. But these first two cards kind of remind me of perhaps there may have been a natural cause to him no longer being on the trail. I'm looking at the fact that this dog right here, the Judgment Dog, has a heart that's clearly visible over there, and then a whole bunch of other dogs in the forefront. The Empress is often like a mother figure, somebody who should take care of you. It could also mean self-care, so this could be them perhaps not taking very good care of themselves, or trying to take good care of themselves but still running into a snag. But it also kind of reads to me as how some people just before they pass on tend to see lost loved ones, and the heart kind of made me feel like perhaps this heart gave out or something. But we're only just looking at the first three cards here. Maybe we're jumping ahead a bit too much. We'll see what the rest says, but it kind of looks to me, at least with these three cards, that he did something hasty, or perhaps felt like something was happening, like maybe he had a premonition that something was terribly wrong with him that made him go, oh no, I need to do something real quick. And that's why we have the Page of Wands here in reverse. Like maybe he felt like impending sense of doom, which is something that people often describe who have had heart attacks, that they feel like something really, really bad is going on, and they may have wanted support from somebody whom they consider to be their nurturer and carer. And who knows, there may have been all sorts of things going on medically there that made him feel like he was in some pretty dire straits, and that made him take some actions that perhaps were not the best, like panicked moves being made right here. Ace of Swords as well, so that is a thought that they had. Ace of Wands, both of them in reverse, followed by the Four of Swords. Okay, that's also interesting. So swords are ideas, thoughts, words, and of course the wands are actions. And we already saw the Page of Wands being in reverse, but in this case we also see the Ace of Wands in reverse next to the Ace of Swords. So there's a lot of new initiative energy here, and they're both not great. So this really looks like a panic-stricken move to try and make something happen, make something work. But then ultimately, on the end of the first line at least, we see the Four of Swords, which is taking a break, literally laying down in this case. Perhaps also looking for a new perspective, but I read this as he had this issue coming up. Maybe a medical issue, could be that he was seeing the shape that the snowstorm was taking and was like, okay, this is way more than I can handle right now. I wish someone was here to do something for me. Or perhaps they thought of wise words that somebody whom he used to look up to used to tell him, somebody from the past who may have given him some advice about situations like these, and they felt like, oh, this is really something, this is where the mettle of me as a hiker is really being tested. All my experiences needed to make it through this. Like maybe that's what's going on here. But in any case, they took actions that were not positive, at least did not lead to the desired outcome, and ultimately we have a bit of a defeated Four of Swords, which is like, okay, that didn't work, and now I'm just gonna have to try to lay low until conditions improve. That's kind of what that looks like. Okay, so on the next row I see the Queen of Cups. So that is somebody who has a pretty good grip on their emotions. They may have spent some time thinking about their emotional state. They may have taken almost like a high road in this regard as well. We see the Three of Pentacles in reverse. Three of Pentacles normally like working together with somebody. Could be just working in general, but it's in reverse, so things are working against them. Or maybe somebody provided a piece of gear or something and it ended up not functioning properly, something along those lines. We do here have an Ace of Pentacles, so I think he did have an idea or a new bounty of some type of resource that he felt was really going to help turn things around, turn his fortune around. And I think in this situation he has spent some time with the Four of Swords over there, just laying low and thinking, and during that time he has really investigated his emotions with the Queen of Cups. Perhaps considered how things failed him. That's what the Three of Pentacles might be saying. And then thought, wait, I can use this in some other way, like an alternative perhaps. Like if you're in a really, really bad situation, you do tend to just go back to the basics. Like, okay, what is it that I've got here? How am I feeling? How am I going to deal with this? And I think this was also part of that Four of Swords energy, that he was having a moment of reflection, introspection, particularly with his emotions. Just try to calm himself down and saying things to himself like, you got this, you can, this may not have worked out, but I've got an idea, we can do this, we can do that. I've heard that somebody else did such and such and that worked. So I think that's him trying to hype himself up, maybe to find some way out of this situation. Next we have the Two of Pentacles, which is in reverse. So this is perhaps incareful resource spending. So the new idea or the new thing that they managed to find was spent incorrectly. Think of perhaps finding, there are often like snacks somewhere hidden along the trail for people who may have gotten lost. They've definitely planted those while they were searching for them, but I think this is still before the search happened. So maybe he found something along those lines, like maybe he found a little cabin somewhere with some supplies, and perhaps he thought that he would be able to make it out of there faster than he actually did. So this looks to me like he found something good, but then he spent it in carefully. Like he may have eaten a meal in one go and thought, okay, good, this will hold me for the next couple of hours and that'll be enough. But it turned out not to be enough. And we also have here Temperance, and on the very end the Ten of Pentacles. So, and initially, we see them not spending their resources properly. Like I said, they're also losing their patience over here. And again, we see a heart on the dog right there with the wings similar to this one. And on the end, though, we see the Ten of Pentacles, which is an interesting card to follow this up with, because initially he's like, oh no, I wasted my resources here. I should have made it last longer. I should have done this. I should have done that. He's actually lost his temper due to that, is unable to think clearly in that case. But the Ten of Pentacles is normally like some type of inheritance thing, finding some type of abundance perhaps. Also the reward at the end of the tunnel if you've been working hard on something. It's also a passing of wealth onto a next generation. Like if you look at the cards, like the Pentacle suit, you have the Eight of Pentacles, which is working on something with a lot of focus, being a craftsman, developing your craft. Then you get the rewards for that with the Nine of Pentacles, which is like having all of this wealth to yourself, which you've built for yourself. And then on the end you have the Ten of Pentacles, which is, okay, I've got all this independent wealth, I got all these resources, now it's time to pass it on to other people. So this may have been them feeling like either they found something really good, or this was them again thinking about what they have left or what they could leave for other people. But we don't know that for sure, so we're going to go on to the Vice Versa Tarot deck to see what we can find in regards to this part right here. What happens next? Oops, we have two of them. Three of them, actually. Okay, so we're starting off with the King of Wands and the Two of Cups in reverse. Okay, followed by the Seven of Wands in reverse. Okay. So the King of Wands is definitely full of energy and wants to take care of things, wants to be in action rather than sitting around and feeling sorry for himself. So I think at this point he felt like perhaps he could still do something, but we see a Two of Cups over here that's in reverse. So perhaps his emotions were not quite on the same level as his thoughts were, or his actions. Like maybe he was ignoring certain things. It also really reminds me of the Lovers, which is always like a subscribing to a thought process, subscribing to a group, making connections with people. And in this case, it being reversed, I feel like perhaps those connections were cut. And they may have also just pushed their emotions aside. Like this might be the point where it's like, okay, no time for feeling sorry for myself. We need to get moving, and we need to get moving now. So they're in an action mode with the King of Wands here. They're not feeling sorry for themselves. And the Seven of Wands is normally people coming for your position, like a jealousy card. And I'm almost getting the feeling of, I wouldn't wish this on anybody. Like, this is definitely not something that most people would want to deal with. And it's a good thing that it's me, because I'm good at this. I've done this for years. And if this other person would have to do it, and then they would definitely fail at it, or they wouldn't be able to make it as far as I have. Something along those lines. Like, it's in reverse, so it's kind of like not quite positive. But it could also just mean like there's nobody who's going to be able to come for me after this. Like if I make it through this, then I am the best out there and nobody's going to be able to top me. Something along those lines. And the other side over here, we always see that there is actually nobody coming for them. So this may also just be a bit of an illusion for themselves as well. But I do feel like they use this as motivation, like, okay, this is something only I can do, and I'm going to go make it, and then I'll have a great story to tell to the people once I get back. Let's see what else we can find. Oops, there we go. This is the Knight of Wands. Upright, but we're looking at the end, or the other end, so to speak, and everything looks very tattered, worn. They do have their wand lit, which is interesting. Like burning the candle on both ends. There's a lot of action, but also a lot of stress because of all the lightning in the background. They do not appear to be in a great place. The area that they're in is very desolate looking. It's just a large flat area with some stones, which could also represent the landscape of the trail, which was of course covered in several feet of snow. In other words, there wasn't too much for them to hold on to. They just kind of battled on. That's what this looks like. So this is the part where they really had to get to work and put everything they had into it, even though it didn't look like he had much of an outlook because he's riding off into the darkness. Whereas normally it would be a much easier ride, like the front of the card shows him sitting on a unicorn and riding into what looks to be a sunset. A much better outlook, but in reality it was definitely him struggling, but struggling valiantly is what I'm trying to say. Like, even though it doesn't look good, he is trying his very best to make it through. What else do we have? Whoop, two of them right there. Okay, so the Emperor is in reverse. And I think that might be somebody's advice that they may have had at some point that turned out not to be quite accurate, or just not helpful. Maybe somebody has once told them about certain situations but left certain things out. I also kind of see this almost like he looks like he's in a cave or something. Like, this could also very well, in their mind, in Gary's mind, represent the mountain ranges, something along those lines, like Hall of the Mountain King vibe is what I'm talking about. Like, he may have looked at the landscape almost as a person who was being unforgiving, because this is the Emperor, who is normally like a patriarchal figure, but in this case it's kind of really handing everything that he's ever tried back to him. Because I also see here that we have the Eight of Pentacles, but it's in reverse, and also the back side. Normally you would see the craftsman himself. This would be the person then that we're talking about, really working on their craft and just focusing on that entirely, and also being good at it. But over here on the other side, we see that there is an apprentice looking at the craftsman. And I think in this case that Gary is much more the apprentice in this situation than the actual person working on their crafts. It's also in reverse, so I feel like this is more representing, combined with this Emperor card here in reverse, like, oh, everything that I knew about mountaineering is now falling short, and I feel like I'm once again a novice and I don't know what to do with this situation. I wish somebody could come and tell me. Like, he may even try to remember people that he may have dealt with in the past who were also very experienced, telling him about situations like this, trying to come up with any type of memory related to that to help him through this situation, and feeling like they're falling short, I think, at this point. So he's struggling big time. Oh, this one flipped over, but of course, since this is a deck without backs, you can't really see that. But we have here the Two of Swords in reverse and also backwards. So they are trying to look at all their decisions that they've made so far, and probably like trying to figure out where they may have gone wrong. That's how I see this card. Like, they're very introspective. They're looking at the moon, which is also like an inside, like behind the scenes type of thing. They're looking out across the ocean, and this is a very quiet, to themselves, all alone in the world type of card that I'm looking at over here. Like, they're trying to figure out where they took the wrong step, like when they had an option to go left or right, should they have gone right where they went left, or left when they went right, vice versa, that type of thing. And I think that's also indicative of them feeling like they're losing to the mountain range, losing to the park, the trail, because it is a very rugged trail. They may have maybe made some incorrect estimations about that. But it's, there we go. Very good. Interesting that this card pops out, because that was on top of the deck before I picked it up to shuffle it again after I got this card. So this card really wanted to come in. Now this is, let's see. Yeah, this is the Lovers, the one we had before. At least the one I thought we had before. The Two of Cups came up before, but once again we have the Lovers in reverse, so they may at this point have thought that they had to abandon pretty much everything that they had previously subscribed to. Things were not quite as he used to believe, like parting with old ways type of thing. It may be like, one thing that I'm reminded of is that a lot of times people have been trained to perform certain tasks and then later get trained again to update their skills and stuff like that. When they end up in a very stressful situation, they will revert to the things they learned first. And an example of that would be, say, an airplane pilot who has started off flying a certain type of aircraft, and then they get trained for another type of aircraft, and one day they're in that second type and they end up in technical difficulties, and it's such a stressful situation that they start performing all the actions that would have worked on the other aircraft, but they're now in this one, so it's not working anymore. Like that. Like, I feel like this may be them also reverting to older ways, perhaps trying to leave other things behind. Normally they would have done X and now they're doing Y, something like that. Like, they're making perhaps some choices that do not match their experience, perhaps also in a panic. But we do see here the Three of Pentacles, even though we're looking at the other side. Normally Three of Pentacles is three people working together, but this almost seems like he's like, I feel alone. He's the one carrying the burden by himself. As you can see, he's got the stone in his hand. He's like looking for people to perhaps join or help him out, but there's just nothing, and he is by himself in this regard. And really feeling the fact that he's by himself as well. So just a moment of, okay, this is me, I need to do it by myself, I'm alone, I've got all this stuff. I used to work with people who have had certain experiences as well. I'll have to make do by myself right now. Okay. What else can we find? This one. Okay, so that is the Knight of Pentacles, which in this direction has the same vibe. It's over here, it fell on the edge. We'll look at these guys in a moment. So Knight of Pentacles, yeah, this is the side where he is once again overlooking a barren landscape, very similar to the other knight we just had, the Knight of Wands up there. And they are trying everything They're using all their resources. They have a lot within themselves, of course, that they've built up over the years in the ways of experience and stuff like that. But it's really coming to task right now. Like all the stuff that he's learned, he's really got to put it to good use. We have here the Six of Pentacles. So there is a little bit of charity here. It could be that they may have felt like something from above was perhaps trying to push them in the right direction, because you can really see there is a person looming over what looks like a small town. So this may be like help from above, or perceived help from above. Like maybe he found another box with some goods in it that he could have used. He may have found a small cabin again with some type of blankets or something to keep himself warm. Something along those lines, like he may have had a sudden windfall. We do see here the moon in reverse. So this is perhaps things that are hidden from him that he was not aware of, because he is busy focusing on other things. He misses certain things that may have been important to note. We have here the Queen of Pentacles in reverse, so we're once again mismanaging the resources here. And the Empress is back, so we're still with the Empress and the Seven of Pentacles as well. Okay, interesting combination. So Seven of Pentacles normally would be seeing things come to fruition, but we have the Empress again in reverse and the Queen of Pentacles also in reverse. I always tend to find that there is a connection between these two. They have a very similar vibe, except that this one's much more down to earth and this one's more in a spiritual sense, a nurture and taking care of abundance, but both of them are in reverse. So I think in this case the mismanagement of the resources spending continues, and perhaps also because there just isn't a very hospitable area for him to be in at the moment. So I think that he was just not catching any breaks, and as a result of that, oops, that one fell. As a result of that, he is looking at just not being able to get much done, because the branch that these pentacles are hanging off of look very almost burnt. Well, very dead in any case, and this person sitting there is looking at them like, wow, this is really great. It's not much I can do with this. This is kind of useless for me. Nothing's really working out for me. They've actually sat down to look at their work, and they're not happy with that. So it's like they are not getting any breaks beyond this sudden windfall right here. But it's misunderstood, I think, due to the moon being in reverse right there. Okay, let's try to get a few extra cards. So far he's not really getting anything done positively. I think at this point he's also kind of wearing out. He's running out of options. He's not seeing any good results from all the effort that he's been putting in. Oh, this one's almost off the table. There we go. Then we have the Ten of Swords, feeling very bad about their situation. This is where the panic sets in, because the Ten of Swords is often a very dramatic card, but sometimes the panic is justified. Right there. So I think that he is really starting to lose his hope right here. And then we have, what's this? The Six of Cups. That is remembering the past. Okay, we're tired as well with the Ten of Wands in reverse. Let me try to grab all three of these. Hang on. So we have, first of all, Six of Cups. That is thinking about the past. This could be where he is reminiscing on better days gone by when things were so much easier. Perhaps we have the Eight of, notices the Seven of Wands again coming for their position. So maybe even though initially he thought, oh, nobody's going to be able to copy this, now he's starting to doubt himself a lot. Like he's thinking, oh, well, if only this other person were here, they would be able to do it. And maybe even having this moment of, well, they're going to laugh at when they see what I've done, and they're going to think, why did he do this and why did he do that? Like feeling people's questions about his actions, questioning his actions rising up in the back of his mind, and just being really tired of fighting. I think that at this point he probably gave up, and he may have spent a lot of time just in this very sad state of mind, feeling very tired, feeling like people were going to come for him, not in a rescue way, but a why would he do that? He was so experienced, maybe he wasn't as experienced as I thought type of way. And just being too tired to carry on. I think this is the point where he probably just gave up. And I imagine that the end of life came pretty quickly after that. Now, will he be found, though? Because we haven't found him. It's been more than a year. Are we going to find anything of Gary? Because he has to be somewhere. All right, that's 4 cards in 1. Let's see what we've got here. So, are we going to find Gary? We have here the High Priestess. So somebody has to have an intuition in order for it to happen, in order to find him. This is the 9 of Pentacles in reverse. So this is somebody who is, or at least we will see that they were down on their luck. That might be the intuition that High Priestess has. We also have the 9 of Cups in reverse, also feeling really bad about it. And then the Knight of Wands, ultimately doing the wrong thing. So I think this is somebody who may have thought about what they would have done in Gary's situation. This may be somebody who is going to go back to the trail and think, okay, so if I were really down in my luck and if I were really feeling really bad, what would I do and what would I do wrong? Because you would assume that he would do the right thing because he's so experienced, but maybe he just interpreted things incorrectly. And I think that one of these people, or a couple people maybe, who is really experienced in hiking as well, might be able to replicate what if he had done the wrong thing, and then they might be able to find him ultimately. I think that is what these cards are trying to say. So somebody who is pretty good with their intuition, because of the High Priestess, may eventually find him or have a good idea about where he may have gone, what he may have done. Just trying to figure out what they would have done in Gary's shoes if they were confused, freezing, possibly out of resources, out of luck, out of time, and then we might actually find some traces of Gary. That is what I'm seeing for Gary Fisk. I hope you found it interesting. Make sure to leave a like and a comment. That really helps the channel along. I hope to see you in another video. For now, in any case, thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.